Hello and welcome. In this video, we are going to learn file input and output, which means we will learn how to write and how to read data from the file. Understanding concept of how to read and write files in Android is one of the most important fundamental concept because sometimes you might have to read and write various files such as text file, PDF file, image file, etc. So in this video I will teach you all about file management and file input and output, and by the end of this video you will learn everything about file management and file input and output in modern Android app development. So let's get started with our video. So when you're dealing with file, there are basically two options you have. You can either save and write file in internal storage, or you can save and write file on an external storage. The difference between internal and external is very simple. Internal storage is a special folder inside a system folder which is specifically reserved for your own application and application data. That is your internal storage, and you have freedom to access and write any file in your internal storage. Let me show you where the internal storage folder is located in your Android device. So inside Android Studio, I have connected my Android device, which is virtual Android device, and inside Device Explorer, go to the root folder, and inside this root folder there is a system folder known as data. Inside this folder there is another folder named data, and inside this folder you have to search for your package name. So this is the package name of my application, and this is the folder specifically reserved for my own application, and in this folder is an internal storage space for your Android application. And as you can see, inside this folder there is a cache folder, there is a code cache folder, and there is a files folder. This entire folder is a system folder, which means your third-party application and even the user cannot access and open this folder. Only your own application has the direct access to this folder and the contents of this folder. So this is the internal storage. Now let's understand what is external storage space. Now external storage space can be such as photos folder, document folder, downloads folder, or even your SD card root folder can consider as an external storage. In simple words, this is a storage which user has access to, and all the third-party application can also have access to this. So whenever your user uninstalls the application, any data which is saved on an external storage such as photos, videos, or downloads or documents. So when user uninstalls your own application, files which are stored on external folder by your own application will not be erased after uninstalling your application. So that's a simple differentiation between internal and external storage. Internal storage is a private storage for your own application. No third-party application or user has access to the internal storage. And external storage is a space where user has access to, such as photos, documents, or a micro SD card. And third-party application also has access to it. When you uninstall the application, the file stored in internal storage will get erased, whereas file stored on external storage will not get erased. Now if you want to save the file in internal storage, then you have to use traditional java.io API, whereas if you want to save file on external storage, then you have to use MediaStore API or Storage Access Framework API depending on your use cases. So this current video I will be focusing only on the internal storage part, whereas in next video I will cover MediaStore API and Storage Access Framework API to save and read file into the external storage. Now let's go ahead and understand how to save and read file into the internal storage of our own application. So on the right side you can see there is an Android virtual device, and I have made a simple demo application. In the text input I will write the hello world. After writing hello world, we will save this hello world content into our file, internal storage file. I will save this as a file into our internal storage. I will click on this button, and after clicking this button, file is saved. Now how to check if file is actually saved or not? Now open the Device Explorer. After opening the Device Explorer, as you can see, this is the private file storage of our application. Refresh the file. After refreshing, you can see there is a hello world.txt file inside the files folder. This is the file which we have recently made using our application. Now what if I want to read the content from this file? Go back to the main application and then click on the button read from internal storage, and the file content is hello world. So this is a simple demo application which I have made, and if you click on the list all file button, this will create a list of all the files which are stored in our internal storage folder. So this is the demo application which I have made to show how to read and write files in your internal app storage. Now let's jump into the code and understand how this works. So first let's understand how to write the content into the file. So here is the code to it. First we will write a variable name file name. We will mention file name hello world.txt, and the next is the line. This line is the more important line. Here first we will take the file input stream. We will write context.fileOutput and then mention file name and then add mode_private. this will create file output stream. Now when we create the file output stream, then we can write the data into the file output stream by using the file output stream. So here is how to use the file output string. We will use the variable file output string dot use. We will get an output which is basically file output, and then we will use file output dot write and add all the user input, and we will convert this user input into the byte array, because when we write anything using file output, we need to use the byte array instead of the pure text format. That's why here we are converting the user input which is in pure text format, which is in string format, and converting it into the byte array, which means which is a byte code, and we will write this byte code into our file using the output. And this is how we simply create file in our private storage. So when we click the button, save to internal storage, this code is executed. Now next, let's try to understand how to read the data from the file. Second button, read from internal storage, this is the code for it. Now to read the data from the file, first you have to create a file input stream. Now previously when we want to write the data into the file, we use the file output stream. Now here in this case, since we want to read the data from the file, we have to use the file input stream. To get a file input stream, write context.openFileInput and then mention the file name. File name is helloworld.txt, which we have previously created in our internal app storage. So this will create the file input stream. After creating file input stream, the next is we will use the file input stream and use the buffer read to get the information in a pure text format. So use the buffer read and then use it.read text. This will read the buffer and then give you the value in a string format, and then we will save that string format in a read content which will be displayed into the user in the application. So only these two lines are required to read the data from the file. Create file input stream, use the file name to create file input stream, and then use the buffer read to get the data from the file, and then save that data into a string format into the read content variable, and then display this read content variable onto the screen in our application. So that's how we read any data from the file. Now next is, let's try to get all the list of files stored in our internal private storage of our application. Previously we learned how to read the file and how to write the information into the file. Now what if you want to get the list of file? Now to get the list of file, there is only one line of code which you need, that is context.filelist.toList. This will create a list of files which are stored in our internal private storage, and then after creating the list one by one, you can iterate through the for each loop and write the file name and display it on an application. So that's exactly how the code works when I click on the third button, which is a list all file. All the files which are stored in our internal private storage will get displayed here as a list format. So this is how we manage read and write files in our internal storage of our application. Now next is external storage and how to save file on external storage. Now to save file on external storage, there are two APIs, MediaStore API and Storage Access Framework API. Now this video has covered the internal storage, and the next video I will cover MediaStore API and Storage Access Framework API. So thank you for watching this video. Make sure you like, share and subscribe if you get value out of it. With that said, have a nice day and see you in the next video.